Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mark Allen with Gaper.io, and I'm here today with Shauna Jones, who is an AI evangelist and an AI artist, and she is many years of experience in the financial industry. Good afternoon, Shauna. How are you today?
A good afternoon. I'm well, and I'm so happy to join you.
And we're happy to have you joining us. And I think it's almost nighttime there where you are, correct?
Well, it's definitely late. It's definitely late. It's 5:55 here, so we're after work. It's drinking hours. It's happy hour time
Yeah.
somewhere.
So thank you for joining us during happy hour. Hopefully, you can have a join happy hour right after this. So to start with, can you just explain your background and why you're so passionate about AI? Because what we're gonna talk about today is innovating with purpose, AI, finance, and social impact.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I am a financial services professional, and I've been, with leading financial institutions for most of my career. But for as long as I can remember, I love telling stories. I loved using visuals as a purpose, purposeful storytelling as a mechanism for which to keep and track history. And about 2 years, almost exactly 2 years ago, I started to see some of the Gen AI development that was happening. I saw someone post images with one of my favorite artists and saying they were starring in a Disney World play. I
Hmm.
saw someone post time period pieces with my sorority. And I was really taken aback. Like, what is happening? How is this happening? So I went to the quickest place to get information, TikTok at the time, and really tried to see what was happening. And I learned of Midjourney. I went down the hole and I never came back. And so I started to do a lot of research, a lot of image creation. And one of the things that I noticed very early was that it was difficult to get beautiful and Black women. I would never get that combination. When I put beauty in, it was rarely associated with a Black woman. So I started to really generate more and try to figure out how do I prompt more. And I really took it on as something I'm passionate about in order to have diverse images come out of these machines. What are they being trained on? How are they being trained? And started a lot more work around using AI as a tool to celebrate the Black experience and Black culture.
Interesting.
So that I'll stop there, but that's definitely what started my Gen AI journey.
Well, then it's interesting because I'm here in Silicon Valley where OpenAI is based, and
Yes.
I've used ChatGPT, and I've never thought to do what you just done. Are there recommendations you can give to people for?
Well, I would say that now, 2024, things are a lot different, right? We're talking about 2022 when a lot of these tools had hit the market. You had Dolly, that at that time was not even a leader. The images that were coming out of there weren't the quality that they are today. So we've had multiple releases in the past few years that have sought to recognize some of these issues and correct some of these issues. So if you were to use Midjourney today, certainly you can get a beautiful Black woman.
Hmm.
They can understand nuances associated with Black culture in terms of hairstyles and braids and dreadlocks. At that time, it was impossible.
Hmm.
People would say, "Oh, I wear dreadlocks. Can I be represented?" And so, the more people that use these tools, the more information and better quality of the data that they have, then of course now today you can get a beautiful Black woman in ChatGPT or Midjourney or any of these, but at that time, I would tell you that it was lacking diversity for certain.
And you think that's just because all AI is trained, so you think it has to do
Yes.
with just
I think it has a lot to do with the training, but again, you saw what happened when Google, the whole woke situation. I think a lot of it has to do with training, but you have to have people that are conscious at the table that says, that talks about the types of characters that come in and out of these machines, right? And the social implications of having someone, say, of color represented as a Nazi figure or whatever it may be. So I think that not only did the technology advance, but the people sitting at the table, the diversity of people using these tools changed. So people would speak up and say something. You know, I think a lot of the awareness changed.
hmm, very interesting. Yeah, because I mean, most people don't think about the people that are training the AI. They think about the tool.
Yeah. Well, I think about the output of the
Yeah.
tool and what that means, right? If
Mm.
I ask for a beautiful woman, and I don't see a beautiful woman that looks like me, then what does that do psychologically? How does that impact you?
Interesting.
And using that type of thing to drive decision and continue to create.
And you know, and I've never thought of this, but like if I never asked ChatGPT or DALL-E for a beautiful woman, but you would think like a Halle Berry or someone like that would come up, right?
Possibly, but you also have to think about Halle Berry, skin tone,
Hmm.
right? You talk about colorism. These are issues that are real in the Black community. When you think about Halle Berry is mixed race.
Mm. I know.
So when you think about dark-skinned women,
Hmm.
how are they represented? What are some of the tools that come, what are some of the images that populate with them? Guarantee you at that time, getting the nuanced nature of the color, the complexions, is still hard today.
Hmm.
How do you get a woman that is Halle Berry's complexion? How do you get a woman that is mine? What must you compare them to in your prompting in order to generate that image? We've come a long way, but there's still a long way to go.
Yeah, and well, I think in general there's a long way to go in AI. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, then
Absolutely.
let's then pivot to your other passion, which is finance. What's
Yes.
that? You're
Financial
interesting.
services, right?
Yeah, you have
Um,
two passions.
Well, I would actually say that financial services is what I do to fuel my passions. My passion is honestly traveling, to be
Ah.
honest. My passion is creating. So financial services is the mechanism in which I'm able to do the things that I really want to do. It's my training. However, when I speak about my passions, I speak about traveling across the world. I speak about creating. I speak about celebrating Black culture.
Very interesting. You're very diverse.
Yes, absolutely.
So we'll go a little bit into finance now. Do you have any real world examples where AI is closing the financial gap for underserved communities?
Absolutely. Well, I have more examples of how it can. You
Okay.
think about the institutions that are leading the institutions that are leading financial and AI services, they are filing patents on a regular basis. A lot of them do not have tools that are publicly facing, but based on the patents that they're filing, you can see where the ability to go. So I think that especially in countries that are underserved, I spent a lot of time in Africa and they don't have credit as we know it. Most of, especially in, I would say, I'd speak for Nigeria, people pay for things in cash
Hmm.
upfront, full. They don't have credit scores as we know it in America. So you think about the ability to utilize tools, financial technology, and to create micro lending platforms that people may be able to use some other information. If you don't have collateral, you don't have a house to mortgage, how are you able to use these tools to, one, have access to information, to streamline the loan process, and to just have other means of credit that weren't previously considered or available to you because of the tools that are now available.
Interesting. So, I mean, that brings up a whole different topic because now you're talking about another country, right?
Oh no, I am very worldly. I have traveled to over 70 countries and my passion is travel. Certainly, I have a great love for West Africa. And so even in my brand colors, my style, my design, the images I create, I celebrate African culture and Pan-Africanism. And so I show up with that way in my work in terms of, people I want to be impacting and how impactful I can be. You think about students that don't have, you pay per data, you pay on data per usage. It's not
Mhm.
unlimited data where you can just stream all day as we have in here, but you think about some of these smaller language models that are going to be available and embedded in everyone's phone that will give a student in a country that is, um, you know, underserved the ability to level up because they now have their individualized pocket tutor with using a mini language model on their phone. I
And
think about that day.
do you think, because the things you're talking about, I mean, like there's not, now I think Nigeria is an example. Nigeria seems to be a country that is actually on the upswing, but do you think there'll be like models or LLMs for each country, or do you think it will be more generic?
Um, I think it will be more generic. I think it'll
Mhm.
be more generic. And then I think that for certain industries, people will learn how to, as we do here and now, fine tune and adapt that model and that prompt for that market.
Mhm.
If you even think about big brands like Coca-Cola, if you go take a Sprite in America, that is not the same Sprite that I drink in Nigeria. It tastes completely different. So I think that these models and these big tech companies will eventually, as the technology advances, they'll tailor they will tailor to those markets. For instance, you think about Android phones, right?
Mhm.
In America, pretty much dominant on the market are Apple, Samsung. When I
Mhm.
go to Nigeria, there are more different brands of Android because they tailor to a market that may not be able to afford a Galaxy
Mhm.
2024 edition. So these are phones that are made for different markets. So I think the same will happen as these technologies continue to mature, that they will have tools and technologies that are tailored to the price point. You think of even some of the subscription models that we have here, $40 a month for XYZ platform. That is simply not sustainable in a country that does not have as much financial means, and you still want people to utilize this tool and this technology.
And do you think AI is the thing that's driving this, like helping bring this to market? Or do you think AI is part of the solution? Do you understand the difference? Like you just said, you're going to have these things on your phone, these apps on your phone. Like
Yes.
it might cost me $40 a month, but it might cost someone in another country $3 a month.
I think that there's so many factors driving that. I mean, I
Mm.
think there's so many factors driving that will control that as we continue to develop. When I'm in these foreign countries, here I'm spoiled. I have unlimited Wi-Fi, just do whatever I want, watch YouTube, go to sleep with it. When I'm abroad, I have to be much more mindful that I'm paying for data by the gigabyte. I need to turn this off. This has to cut off at night, or my whole, by the time I get all these alerts from LinkedIn, Google, Facebook, whatever, all my data will be gone that I just paid for. So you have to shift your mentality when you're developing in these other countries. So I think the amount of compute that it takes to run some of these applications is not going to be available or sustainable or scalable in some of these other markets. So I think it will push the need to innovate.
Very interesting. So, and I'm in California, and I know there's regulations, AI regulations being debated in California, and actually
Absolutely.
nationally too. Um, so, I mean, do you think that there's things that can be done to protect consumers without stifling the innovation that's going? Because where I live, it's all over the place.
Absolutely. I mean, I think California is certainly leading the charge in terms of creating regulations with regard to AI in the US, but we also have to look at what they're doing at the EU AI Act, and they're largely going to have, a Brussels effect with what they do overseas in the EU is going to really push down and control a lot of the decisions we make here. I think that we have to have some guardrails and mechanisms in place. Some of the laws and the policies that are passing in California with terms of deep fakes and pornography, I truly believe those are needed, but I also believe you have to have a very fine balance in making decisions that stifle innovation and yet, erect the appropriate guardrails. So
Mm.
it's really a balancing act, and I don't think we're there yet.
No, I mean, I'm living it. I mean, I see it around me. It is. It's you know, a deep fake. Is how harmful is that as opposed to you create pornography of someone that doesn't want to be seen.
Yeah, and
That's a whole
I'm
different issue.
guilty of that. I struggle with that because again, I do artwork and I aim to celebrate Black culture. So I might have an image of XYZ person celebrity, painting them in a positive light, like they are in our, very highly respected, the most beautiful piece, but it's still a deep fake.
Mm.
So, is it how the deep fake is being used? Is it no deep fakes at all? You
Hmm.
know,
And who decides? That's the
and
other
who
thing.
decides, right? Yeah, who
That
decides?
this is good and this one isn't. Right?
Yeah.
That's where it
If
gets
you
tricky.
painting in a positive light, who decides what's positive associated with that. So I do think that there's some things that we can absolutely say as a society, this is not okay. Deep fake pornography for, children
Yeah,
across the globe, that should be banned.
yeah, I would agree. I think everybody agrees with that.
Yeah, so
And if
there
you
are
don't,
certain things that we all can come to the table on. But again, then there's some that it leaves a lot of room for debate. Gonna leave that up to the politicians. But I think that it's a very fine line on what is appropriate and what's not. Because as an AI artist and as a technologist, I get excited about how close I can get to reality. Like, oh my
Mhm.
goodness, this looks so good that it can pass.
Mhm.
This video could pass. You can't tell. So I get excited about how far technology has come even in the past 2 years, but how dangerous is that? Must
Yeah.
we disclose? Because as an artist, when you have to stick AI on the top of everything, that just kills a lot of who wants to do that? You
Mhm.
get excited as to, oh, people actually believe this was real. So what are the ethical implications of that? Should everything be disclosed as AI? I certainly think when you're talking about making hiring decisions, decisions in finance that impact people or their rights, fundamental rights, then of course, you're a doctor and you're an AI doctor that's talking to me. We need to know that up front.
Mhm.
I need to have the ability to opt out and say, no, I don't want AI doctor.
Right.
So I think, and a lot of that discussion is going to be happening and it will continue to play out as
Right.
policy does.
And I think the key thing you said there was opt out, because you think about it, some people will prefer an AI doctor,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because
Yeah, absolutely.
think about all the compute power that went into that technology. Some people
Yeah,
really prefer that.
absolutely. Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
still working through that, you, trying to figure out what is the most appropriate.
Mhm. Yeah, well, and let's swing back to the finance. Yeah, it's interesting. I can go back and forth with you. Um, so what ethical
I'm
consideration?
cool like that. That's why just a second. I'm
Okay,
cool like that.
okay. Do you have to take something there?
No, no, no. Someone was calling me,
Yeah.
right? And I wanted to let them know I'll call them right back because you are the man of the hour.
Well, thank you. And then it is happy hour and where you
Yeah,
are. So what ethical considerations should financial institutions prioritize when implementing AI, to ensure that the automation algorithms don't unintentionally reinforce existing biases, because they do exist, right?
absolutely. I think it's really about transparency.
Mhm.
If an AI tool is being used, I should know that. Um, I should have the option to again opt out. Or if it is used and is making a negative decision about me, I should have the ability to say what was used, what of my information was used in that. Just like when you are denied a loan, you get an opportunity to look at your credit score, to look at
Mhm.
your credit report. Is your debt to income ratio too high? So I
Mhm.
think that some of those things will need to be implemented as we can make AI decisions. What ratio exists to say this decision was made and the impact of that score? Is
Mhm.
there AI financial ratio that we now have in addition to FICO and our regular,
Mhm.
is there some type of AI number?
Right.
A score of 1,000, you're good. Your credit is good here. Your AI score is good. So I think we need a mechanism in place with some key metrics that we're going to use to say, so it's really clear. Like if you don't have an AI score of 700, you can't get XYZ, and this is your appeal process, much like we do with credit reporting and everything else.
And I would agree with you on that. But do you think we also have to explain AI to the masses then? Because most people don't really understand what's
Oh,
behind AI.
well, I think that is one of the reasons that I'm such an advocate of AI literacy and AI education. I don't think AI is slowing down. I think it's going to
Mm.
be, you think about Internet of Things and, all these cars, smart cars and controlling your air conditioning. I think it's only going to, the technology is going to
Mm.
only advance. So it is understanding that some people will be afraid of this technology. Some people fear losing your jobs, but I'm of that mindset that believes that AI won't take your job, but someone that knows how to use AI will. So how do we train and educate the workforce, the children of tomorrow, so that they are capable of using these tools and making informed decisions, aware of the risks, and not perpetuating biases that we've had for decades, centuries.
Yeah. And I would agree the AI is only going to increase. I don't know if you saw this week, Equinix, which is the largest data center company in the world, and is investing $1.5 billion in new data centers to handle AI.
Yes, I mean, I do again work in the financial services industry, and one of the things that we often talk about is financial center lending. That's really, I'm sorry, data center lending. So
Mhm.
you can see based on what types of requests are coming in, what are being talked about on the calls, you can see what direction things are trending in.
Yeah, very good. Well, and we'll close it out and I'm going to ask you about the future, right? We
Okay.
both know AI is here to stay and it's going on an increase. So talking about AI and finance, what do you think will have the biggest impact on both economic growth and social equity going forward? using those, thinking about those
Mhm.
two things, AI and finance?
I do think that's a really interesting question on both. I think it would be the popularization of these models and the maturity of the system. You think about when the internet first came online. I remember when the internet came available and I was not in a household that had computers. I
Hmm.
remember, when printers came online, I remember having a classmate that was more affluent and she could type her homework up and I
Hmm.
was still handwriting mine. But I look at where we are today when most people have at the very least a smartphone.
Hmm.
So I'm thinking there will come a time when, at the very least, people will have a model embedded in your phone. It would be standard, like this is
Hmm.
built in your phone, depending on what edition you have. So you have some fundamental baseline of knowledge. So to me, we'll all walk around with personal dictionaries and personal encyclopedias, and it will democratize education, finance, and benefit society for good.
Hmm. Yes, I would agree. And I actually think one of the other big benefits that will come out of AI is in individual medicine,
A-
right?
Absolutely.
I
Being
think.
able to look at your scans, make decisions much earlier,
Mhm.
tailoring your healthcare needs, certainly. But for me, this past year, I've been able to accomplish a lot. I had a lot of certifications that as an AI artist, a financial services professional, there were a lot of certifications that I wanted to pursue so that I can feel that belong at the table and I could have conversations with AI experts. And I can tell you, use these tools to tailor my learning plans, to
Mhm.
create ultra learning plans for myself that were unique to my schedule and my lifestyle, and it has helped me exponentially. So I do dream of a day where students with special needs, and I talk about this all the time. I have raised a son who has a brain injury.
Mhm.
As soon as I learned about AI, as soon as I learned about the power of Gen AI, and I get emotional when I talk about him, I taught my son everything I know. And he is now a third-year student at Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia, which is an HBCU. He uses these tools to work through his classes, to solve problems, and not only to create artwork. I mean, the school has contacted him to work on special projects. So I do think the ability, the power in these tools is
Yeah.
unlimited.
Yeah. Well, Shauna, it's been fascinating talking to you. You're obviously very well versed in this subject, and I have a
Yes,
feeling a few other subjects we could probably talk
yes, yes,
for hours. But I'm going to let you go to happy hour, and
yes.
wish you a good weekend, and hopefully we can do this
My
again.
happy hour might be some books this time, but I got to make a couple other calls and finish up some things
All
from the work week. So I
right.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, you have a good evening.
You too.